The Windsor Grand Hotel sparkled under the late afternoon sun like it always did. Polished marble floors, golden elevators, fresh orchids in the lobby. But for Savannah Reed, age 7, it was just the place where her mama worked. She sat cross-legged near the corner sofa in the grand lobby, crayons scattered around her like fallen stars, a piece of folded printer paper acting as her canvas. Her drawings, full of bold swirls and smiling suns, reflected a world far bigger than the one she actually knew. Her mother, Jordan Reed, moved across the lobby floor with silent precision, dressed in a pressed black uniform, her hair tucked into a low bun. 32 years old, single mother, housekeeper, and too proud to ever let Savannah see her cry, even on the worst days. But Savannah heard her sometimes. On nights when they got home late and the lights flickered in their rented apartment on the south side of Atlanta, Savannah would lie awake in her room and listen to her mother behind the bedroom door. The quiet sobs, the please God prayers, the way her voice trembled when she whispered to no one in particular, "I'm trying." On this day, Savannah was doodling a butterfly when something shiny caught her eye. It was wedged beneath the corner of the velvet sofa. At first, she thought it was a toy, but when she crawled closer and reached out, her fingers touched something cold, heavy, a ring, not just any ring. It looked old, like the ones in her fairy tale books. Thick gold with a deep red gem in the center, ruby maybe, and tiny letters engraved along the edge. R.W. She looked around. No one had seen her. The guests were drinking champagne or talking into headsets, and her mother was gone, probably cleaning the executive suites upstairs. Savannah bit her lip and closed her hand around the ring. It didn't feel right to just leave it there. But she also didn't know who it belonged to. So she did the only thing she could think of. She put it in her tooth fairy box. It was a small plastic container shaped like a ladybug, the kind she kept under her pillow on nights when she lost a tooth and hoped for $1. This time, she wasn't asking for anything. She was hiding something until she could figure out what to do. That evening, chaos swept the Windsor. Security cameras were being checked. Radios buzzed from every hallway. Managers were whispering behind clipboards. Mr. Wexler's ring was missing. Ringwald Wexler. The name alone sent shivers through the corridors. Billionaire, owner of the Windsor chain. A man who'd inherited his empire from a family that treated legacy like gospel. And the ring, his mother's ring, was the one thing he never took off. Until today. He'd taken it off for exactly 6 minutes to wash his hands in the private lounge before his board meeting. When he came back, it was gone. Accusations were whispered. Protocols were launched. Every staff member was questioned, every room searched. And Jordan Reed? She was asked, quietly but firmly, to step away from duty while the internal review was conducted. It wasn't a suspension, they said, just temporary, just in case. But Savannah heard what they didn't say, the way the other maids avoided her mother's eyes, the way one manager muttered, "We've had issues before." Jordan didn't fight it. She packed her things, head high. But that night, Savannah saw her cry. She didn't sob like the movies. She just sat on the edge of the bed, shoulders shaking, her hands clenched around a paycheck envelope she hadn't yet cashed. "I swear to God I didn't touch anything," she whispered. "I'd rather starve than steal." Savannah couldn't take it. She stayed up all night, staring at the ladybug box beside her pillow, and by morning she made up her mind. She walked into the Windsor Grand lobby the next day with braids freshly combed and shoes shined. Her heart pounded in her chest, but her hands didn't shake, not even as she stepped up to the front desk. Behind the marble counter stood 3 suited employees, and, to her surprise, him, the man from the posters, tall, white, salt and pepper hair, a watch worth more than their rent. Ringwald Wexler, and he looked nothing like the smooth photos on Forbes magazine. His expression was tight, pale. He looked like someone who hadn't slept. Savannah took a breath. "Excuse me, mister?" He looked down, startled. "Yes?" She held out the ladybug box with both hands. "I think you lost this." He blinked, slowly took the box, opened it. When his eyes fell on the ring, something broke. He didn't cry, at least not at first. But his mouth opened just slightly, and the air seemed to stop around them. "Where?" His voice caught. "Where did you find this?" Savannah's voice was soft. "Near the red sofa. Yesterday. I didn't tell anybody." I was scared. Scared? I thought people might think I stole it, but I didn't. I just wanted to give it back. Behind him, the front desk staff was frozen. One woman gasped. Another looked at the security camera screen in disbelief. And then came Jordan, out of breath, still in street clothes, pushing through the double doors with panic in her eyes. "Savannah!" she shouted. "What are you doing?" Wexler held up a hand gently. "It's okay," he said. "She didn't do anything wrong." He turned to the staff. "In fact, she just returned the most important thing I own." Then, looking at Jordan, "Is this your daughter?" Jordan nodded slowly. "Yes." "I'm so sorry. I didn't know." "You shouldn't be apologizing," he cut in. "They should." He turned to the hotel manager, whose face was now the color of milk. "You suspended this woman over a baseless suspicion?" "We followed protocol." "Then your protocol is broken." His voice wasn't raised, but it didn't need to be. The room had fallen silent. He turned to Savannah again, kneeling slightly. "You did the right thing, even when it was hard. That's more than most adults manage." Savannah looked down. "I just didn't want my mom to cry anymore." That did it. Wexler closed his eyes for a moment, as if composing himself. Then he stood. "Effective immediately," he announced, "Jordan Reed is reinstated with full back pay and promoted." The staff gasped. "Promoted?" Jordan whispered. "To shift supervisor," Wexler confirmed. "And we're going to review our internal investigations procedures closely." Then, to Savannah again, "Tell me something. What do you want to be when you grow up?" The little girl thought for a moment, then said simply, "An artist." A smile crept across his face. "Good, because artists see things other people miss." Savannah had never seen her mother cry like that before, not from sadness, but from something else, something that looked like disbelief wrapped in relief. When they got home that night, Jordan Reed sat down at their tiny kitchen table and just stared into space, the promotion letter from the Windsor Grand still in her trembling hands. "Supervisor," she whispered, like it was a foreign word. Savannah watched her from the hallway, hugging her favorite stuffed elephant. "Mama," she said softly, "did I do something wrong?" Jordan's head snapped up. "No, baby," she said immediately. rushing over. She knelt down and pulled Savannah into her arms, holding her tighter than she ever had. You did something so right, people like us don't always get the chance to do. Savannah didn't fully understand. She just knew her mom's tears were different now, and that, somehow, the ring had changed everything. The next morning, a black SUV pulled up outside their apartment. It wasn't just any SUV. It had the Windsor crest on the license plate. A uniformed driver stepped out and asked if Miss Savannah Reed was home. Jordan looked like she might faint. "I didn't break anything," Savannah blurted, clutching her sketchbook to her chest. The driver smiled. "You've been invited back to the hotel. Mr. Wexler would like to speak with you." Jordan tried to say something, tried to ask if this was safe, if it was normal. But Savannah had already nodded. 10 minutes later, she was seated in the back of the car, drawing again. But this time, her butterflies looked like they were flying somewhere important. Back at the Windsor, Ringwald Wexler stood waiting in the lobby. He looked different today, lighter, still in a tailored suit, but the edges of his face had softened. "I wasn't sure you'd come," he said, as Savannah stepped out of the car, escorted by a young assistant who looked like he'd never met a child before. Savannah gave him a polite nod. "I didn't bring the box. I left it at home." "That's okay," he smiled. "I have something for you instead." He led her into the grand ballroom, empty, echoing, the chandeliers twinkling even though there were no guests. In the center of the room stood a table, and on the table an easel, a giant box of paints, rows of sketchbooks, brushes of every size, paper so thick it looked like clouds pressed into sheets. Savannah gasped. Wexler watched her quietly. "I asked your mother what you loved most," he said. "She said drawing." She touched the brushes gently, as if they might vanish. "These are real artist things," she whispered. "Not the crayons from the dollar store." "They are yours," he said. "All of them, and something else." He handed her a thick envelope. Savannah opened it, frowning at the strange papers inside. "What's a scholarship?" she asked. Wexler crouched to meet her at eye level. "It's a promise that when you're ready to learn more about art, there'll be a place waiting for you, and people who believe in you." Savannah didn't speak. She just looked at the ring on his finger, the one she had found. "It belonged to your mama?" she asked. Wexler nodded, his voice lower now. "Yes, she wore it every day, even when we had nothing. She said it reminded her that legacy isn't about money. It's about how you carry your name and how you treat people." Savannah blinked. "Is that why you were so sad?" He didn't answer right away. "I was sad," he said finally, "because I lost her years ago, and I thought I lost the only piece of her I had left, until you returned it." She hesitated. "You were going to fire my mom." His face tightened. "Yes," he said quietly. "I didn't know it then, but I was about to make a mistake, a big one. I let the wrong people tell me a story that wasn't true, about her, about people like her." Savannah tilted her head. "Why'd they think she took it?" Wexler hesitated again. "Because the world isn't always fair, and sometimes people make assumptions, bad ones." "Because we're black?" she asked plainly. Wexler didn't flinch. "Yes." She looked at her sketchbook, then up at him. "You gonna fix that?" He gave her a quiet smile. "I'm going to try." 3 days later, Savannah Reed's drawings hung in the front lobby of the Windsor Grand. It wasn't a gallery, not officially, but that's what the staff called it. The Reed Collection, a row of colorful butterflies, a drawing of her mom with superhero arms, a hotel made of candy and clouds. One guest offered to buy a piece on the spot. Wexler refused. "These aren't for sale," he said. "They're here to remind us of what honesty looks like and what we almost lost." He stood beside Jordan at the soft opening of the exhibit. Savannah watched from the steps, beaming. "She really did all of this?" a hotel guest asked in amazement. Jordan smiled, pride glowing from her skin. "She really did." The video went viral the next morning. Someone had recorded the moment Savannah returned the ring. Her voice, sweet and trembling, saying, "I was scared they'd think I stole it." The internet exploded. Little girl returns billionaire's ring, restores more than gold. She saved more than a ring. She saved a reputation. Kid teaches billionaire about integrity. Savannah didn't understand the headlines, but she liked the way her mom smiled when they saw her face on the news. Wexler's company released a formal statement. They pledged a full review of internal security bias policies. They funded scholarships for hotel staff's children. They created a new training program called the Reed Code. Savannah didn't care about all that. She just liked the paint and the brushes, and that now, when her mama walked into work, people looked her in the eye and meant it. It was a Sunday afternoon when the letter arrived. Not an email, not a press release. A real letter, thick cream-colored envelope, gold-embossed crest at the top. Jordan Reed opened it carefully, her breath hitching as she unfolded the parchment inside. "You are cordially invited to attend the Windsor Foundation Gala, an evening of legacy and light. Guests of honor, Jordan and Savannah Reed." She stared at the words, her thumb brushing over the line again and again. "Mama?" Savannah stood barefoot on the carpet, her fingers sticky with glue from the glitter project she'd just abandoned. "Why are you crying?" Jordan didn't answer right away. She just knelt down and pulled her daughter into her arms. It still felt like a dream, all of it. The job, the lobby exhibit, the way people now said her name with respect instead of suspicion. And now this. The night of the gala. The hotel shimmered. Savannah had never worn anything like it. Her dress was soft blue, with little sparkles sewn into the skirt like stars caught in a cloud. Her hair had been braided into a crown, and she walked with the cautious awe of someone who didn't want to smudge the moment by breathing too hard. Wexler met them at the elevator. He wore a tuxedo, but not one of those stiff, cold ones that made people feel small. This one looked like it fit exactly who he was now, a man trying to step into something better than what he used to be. "You both look amazing," he said, smiling down at them. Jordan nodded politely. She still kept a little distance, not out of anger, but out of memory. "Thank you," she said simply. Wexler turned to Savannah. "You ready?" She nodded, clutching her new sketchbook. She had drawn something special for tonight, but she hadn't shown anyone yet. The ballroom pulsed with light and laughter. Chandeliers sparkled, strings played in the background. Waiters in white gloves passed trays of tiny food with names Savannah couldn't pronounce. She stayed close to her mother, watching everything with wide eyes. At the front of the room, a raised stage stood waiting. And when the music dimmed and the spotlight turned on, Wexler stepped forward. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, "tonight is not just a celebration of business or legacy, or success. It's a celebration of honesty, of courage, of what it means to truly see someone. A hush settled over the room. He continued, "Some weeks ago I lost something irreplaceable. My mother's ring, the last piece I had of her. I thought I'd never see it again. But then," he paused, turned. "Savannah, would you join me?" The crowd turned as the little girl in blue walked to the stage. She looked so small, and yet, somehow, so certain. Wexler knelt beside her. She found it, and more importantly, she returned it, without being asked. Without expecting anything, she did the right thing, even though it could have cost her. He turned to the audience again. We live in a world where people are too often judged by their uniforms, their addresses, their skin. But Savannah reminded me, and all of us, that dignity can come from anywhere, and integrity doesn't wear a price tag. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a velvet box. Inside wasn't a ring. It was a pendant, small, elegant, shaped like a butterfly, with the initials SR engraved on the back. "A token," he said, "for the girl who reminded me what legacy actually means." Savannah took it shyly, then cleared her throat. I made something too," she said, holding up her sketchbook. "It's for you." Wexler opened it. The first page was a drawing of a big hotel lobby, but in the center, instead of guests or chandeliers, was a little girl holding up a ring. Around her, all the people in suits were looking at her, but not with suspicion, with gratitude. She had titled it, "Truth Shines More Than Gold." The audience didn't clap right away. They stood. They applauded. Some even cried. Weeks passed. The world didn't change overnight. But something had shifted. Jordan now oversaw 2 full teams. The hotel instituted mentorships for staff children, and one of Savannah's drawings made the cover of the Windsor Foundation's annual report, a butterfly landing on the hand of a janitor. One afternoon, Wexler sat with them in the cafe inside the hotel. He wore no suit today, just a gray sweater and soft eyes. "I've been thinking," he said, sipping his coffee. "I want to start an art program for kids like Savannah, kids who see the world with color and kindness but don't always have the canvas." Jordan raised an eyebrow. "Why tell me?" "Because I want you to run it," he said, turning to her. "You've got the heart, the vision, and people will follow your lead." Jordan blinked. "I clean hotel rooms." "You ran this place better than I did," he replied. "Now it's time you help me build something." She didn't say yes, not right away, but she didn't say no. The viral video still made its rounds. People reposted it, added music, captions. "Little girl teaches a billionaire a lesson in grace." But for Savannah, none of that mattered. What mattered was that her mother smiled more now, that their apartment felt less heavy, that she got a new backpack, not because it was falling apart, but because she liked the color. And sometimes on special days she'd walk past the ladybug box in her room and open it. It was empty now, but it didn't need to hold anything anymore, because the real treasure was already returned. One night, as her mom tucked her in, Savannah asked softly, "Do you think Grandma Wexler would be happy?" Jordan smiled. "I think she's looking down, proud of both of you." Savannah looked up at the stars outside the window. "I didn't want you to cry anymore," she said. Jordan leaned in, kissed her forehead. "You didn't just find a ring, baby. You gave us something people can't always get back." Savannah blinked sleepily. "What?" Jordan brushed a braid from her daughter's cheek. "Respect." And as Savannah closed her eyes, she whispered with a yawn, "Next time, maybe I'll draw that too."